So let's see if we can catch some of these ledge fish. Oh, there's a better one. There you have it. That's a scoreable bass. So okay, everybody asks about ledge fishing. What does ledge fishing mean? And ledge fishing is exactly that. You're just fishing ledges out in the middle of the lake. Well, we just came across a really cool spot right here, and I just kind of paused it so you could see it. So ledge, what you can see here, and we can get it, is my map here, is you can see due to the depth shading, my ledge is roughly this yellow line here. So we just got up here and started going along this edge. The red is deeper water, the purple is shallower. So as I started up this ledge, you can see right here we came across a school of fish. You can clearly see them on the sonar and the down view. You know, I don't know if they're bass or crappie or what they are. You know, typically when you find them like that, the best thing to do is to save a waypoint and then go back and make a few casts on it just to see what those fish are. Those fish are fairly deep. They're in 20 foot of water, so you're going to need a deep diving crankbait, you know, a deeper diving bait, a spoon or a worm or something along those lines. But that's really an encouraging deal. You can see all the fish relating to the bottom, some of them off the bottom there. Those are the little white dots right there on the clear view. You can clearly see them on the sonar as well. That looks like a pretty good school of fish right there. So you know, that's what you find. You save a waypoint. We could idle over it, maybe put a marker buoy on it, but let's stand up and give it a try. So these fish are a little bit deeper, so we're going to put a deeper diving crankbait on. These fish were relating to the bottom right about 20 feet, so it's really important when you're throwing a crankbait. You want a crankbait that'll get right down there, and you want it to just be touching the bottom. And you can control a lot of that with your rod tip height. I can hold my rod tip higher and the bait won't dive as deep, but you know, I'm just trying to get this bait down there as deep as possible right here because it's fairly deep, but I can see these fish on my Panoptics up in front of the boat. So the way they're relating right towards the bottom, you know, right close to the bottom, typically is a good sign that they're possibly catchable fish, and I would suspect they're probably bass. Here's another trick you can do just to get that bait down even deeper, is we can do what's called kneeling and reeling. You get that rod tip down in the water, and I can feel it kind of hitting the bottom there now, and oh, little guy. He hit it like a big one. So when it comes to ledge fishing, you know, the big thing is trusting your electronics, but then also just fishing. And I tell people this all the time. It's so important. It's more important where you're fishing than necessarily the bait you're fishing. But I love fishing a crankbait on ledges, because typically crankbaits seem to catch the bigger fish, but you can cover so much water, you know, with a crankbait versus a worm or a jig or something like that. So I love just getting up here, you know, you find an area that's got fish, and sometimes it's going to take getting up there and actually just fishing it before you find the sweet spot. And the crankbait's just a great way to do that. Then, you know, the big key from there, some ledges can be as shallow, you know, guys, you're talking ledge fishing, that could be, you know, in a ledge that goes from 5 feet to 10 feet of water. Some ledges are, you know, you're fishing 15 to 20. It just depends, and each lake is different, especially different parts of the lake. The different times of the year are part of that too. So you know, that part of ledge fishing, you're just going to have to determine your lake or your body of water, what that ledge pertains to, and then just, you know, fish it accordingly. But, you know, they make crankbaits that you can fish in much shallower depths, and then they make crankbaits that dive a lot deeper than the one I'm throwing right here. So just it's a matter of finding the right crankbait that will work for the depth you're fishing. And then, like I said, once you find the fish, there's an arsenal of baits to catch them on. But I love to fish a moving bait, and then, you know, try to catch as many fish that way as I can, and then follow up with a jig or a worm or Carolina rig or something like that to catch the remaining fish. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a better one. Not a bad fish. Oh. there you have it. We move out deeper and catch a better fish. That's a scoreable bass. It doesn't matter necessarily what you throw. If you're not around them, you're not necessarily going to catch them. Remember that. It's so important where you're fishing than necessarily what you're fishing. I mean, there's certain basic rules for fishing offshore. You know, I got a crankbait and a worm tied on. If we're up shallow, we're flipping, pitching, something like that. So remember that. Way more important of where you're at than necessarily what you're throwing. You know, a good definition of a ledge is a quick drop off. And what I think most people hear of, and what the best way to explain, is basically a creek channel. So you got to imagine, you know, these lakes before they were flooded, that a lot of it was fields and people's homes and houses and all that, but then you have these creeks that would run through a valley or an area that turns into a lake. And typically when you hear ledges, it's the creek ledge, the channel ledge that people are fishing. So you'll have the actual, what used to be an old field or whatever, but then it drops into the creek channel itself and creates that sharp break. And that's what they typically talk about when they're talking about ledges. So as you can see, I'm out here ledge fishing. I'm working this crankbait. I'm working it pretty fast. I mean, it's summertime. The water's 80 something degrees. So that's kind of the big misconception too. When it's summertime, you want to fish fast. Their metabolism's high. They have to eat a lot, and you know, it seems like when you work a bait faster, you tend to get the fish to react a little more aggressively to the baits as well. So we're trying to just get those in there. Don't let the fish look at it too long and make them react at it. And now just got to find the big ones. Oh, there we go. Oh, little guy. See that crankbait's such a good way to cover water, find these scattered fish. So, you know, when you're fishing a ledge, typically you don't want to throw straight up 90 degrees to it unless you're really dialed into the spot. You don't want to just sit in the deepest water possible, throw to the shallowest, and bring it just straight off the ledge. You'll catch fish that way, but I prefer to kind of get up here and throw across the ledge at a 45-degree angle, trying to keep your bait in the strike zone as much as possible. You know, typically when I'm searching for fish, I like to kind of almost parallel the ledge and try to work my crankbait down it, which is going to tend to keep your bait in the strike zone a little bit longer. And so as you can see, I'm going along here. I'm throwing up in about 10 foot of water. I've got the boat out here in about 17, and I'm just going and trying to keep this bait just enough where it's ticking the surface to hopefully find out the key depth that these fish are at. And then once you establish or determine, let's say all the fish are in 10 to 12 foot of water up shallower on the ledge, then you could almost parallel it and try to keep that bait in that part of the strike zone even longer. You know, and it might be they're all out in 18 foot of water, and it gives you an opportunity to keep the bait out there in that depth zone a little bit deeper as well. So you know, kind of each ledge is a little unique or different. Sometimes you might have, you know, you might find a big school of fish that might have some fish up in 10 and 12 foot of water, and you might have some other fish in 18 to 20 foot of water, or you might have them at each water column. And then from there is just having a variety of baits that you can hit each depth or water column with. Fish aren't really schooled up here, they're just kind of scattered, so that's what makes the crankbait pretty good too. Not a bad little guy. So, you know, ledge fishing can be a blast. It's a great way to catch fish in the summertime. Sometimes you find them really schooled up, and those are very special trips when you do that. And that's what makes ledge fishing really exciting, are the times that you can find that, because there's literally those type of places on certain bodies of water where when you find a spot like I just caught that fish where you could catch 100, you know, literally catch them every cast. So that's what makes ledge fishing so rewarding, is getting out there. Sometimes you can find fish that have never been fished for, or maybe not been fished for many different times. And it's just like I said, typically when you find the fish, that's the most important part. When you find them, you can catch them on a variety of baits.